and welcome to another beautiful conversation on PSL Talk Show. And today we are having this conversation about what causes trauma in teenagers. And we've had this conversation before, just like the series too. And my name is Afolakemi, and with me today is Adebola. As regards, we talked earlier on this conversation, we talked about trauma and we talked about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, if I'm correct. Yeah. So today we're talking about what causes trauma in teenagers. We know trauma is an event, it's time-bound, it's something that could actually lead to PTSD itself. So, but then teenagers are sometimes, like, not even sometimes, some people believe that teenagers can be a handful. And we know that there's so many reasons why teenagers can be a handful. So we're just going to discuss and dialogue about some of those things that could actually cause trauma for teenagers. And this is something that is very important and necessary to talk about, because teenagers we know teenhood is part of their formative years, in as much as we know that, okay, fine, they might have built a personality, but as they grow older, the events or the actions or the decisions that they make during those years could actually mar them, I'll put it that way, or build them. It could actually change the course of events for them. But then what do we as elder ones, siblings, aunties, uncles, parents, or even friends, what do we actually need to take note of while speaking or having a conversation with a teenager? And what are the symptoms of trauma, as it may be? So, Debola, I would ask you first, have you ever experienced, even as a teenager, what do you think, what causes trauma for you? Or what is trauma? Let me just put it, what is trauma for you?
For me, it's just basically for me, I'm saying from my own point of view, it's like an experience I have over and over again when I find myself in a situation similar to what I experienced. For example, there was one time we're going for my elder sister's matriculation in Benin, and then I think there were robbers in front, so different people were coming down from their cars and running to a safer place. So we got out of the car too, and we're also running. And I can remember I and my little sister were with my mom, and then my dad was somewhere else. We basically split up in the process of looking for a safe place to hide. So then it was just, I don't know, it was very scary at that point in time. And then I noticed that anytime we're traveling and then maybe it's just normal hold up in traffic, I start feeling like there are people in front, like something is about to happen, but nothing is about to happen. But it's just basically because I felt the feeling I had that time would just come again, and I would be feeling the same thing again. So this thing went on for 5 to 6 years. I just kept on feeling like that every time we travel, that there are people in front, there are bad people in front coming for us. But then later on, I got over it. And then I noticed the same thing happened too with my little sister. There was one time for her, she was even having dreams for her. It was not real, but then she would feel like it was real. So I just had to tell her that nothing bad was going to happen. So for me, it's an experience that keeps happening over and over again when I find myself in that same situation or in a situation similar to that. And not to limit it to just maybe armed robbery or something, but then there are other things that cause trauma in teenagers. For some people, maybe they witnessed the death of someone, some of a loved one, or it could even be about failing in school. maybe they failed one time and then it was a big deal at home, and then they just start feeling like in everything they do they will be failing, or they are just scared like about how everything would turn out, like how their schoolwork would turn out, how one exam would turn out, how one test would turn out. So it could be, I don't think there's a limit for me to, any little thing could be traumatic for a teenager. Because for me, I feel like this we've had one conversation before about teenagers, and I mentioned something about it being a sensitive stage, in the sense that it's a stage parents, guardians, siblings need to, you have a sibling that is still a teenager, you need to like focus on them. Focus on them in the sense that you should know what they are doing, but not in a way that you are getting into everything they are doing. Like they no longer have their own privacy. Because for someone, you have a teenager at home and that teenager is always on their own. They don't come out for anything. They don't do anything. And then when they ask, you're just like, oh, she's in her room. Oh, she's downstairs. Oh, she's alone somewhere. You need to like find out what is actually going on, because it's almost like every teenager has one thing they are going through that they never share with people. Like they just keep it to themselves. And it could be harmful because it could result in something else later on. Maybe they get involved, like they mix with they mix with
I
bad
was going to be
people.
tempted to ask you, like, so what is that one thing that you have not shared with anyone, but it's not going to be on the show?
No,
Like, what is that one thing
for
that you are
me,
hiding?
I can't with my mom at home, it's always very hard to hide something, because I can literally just be on my own. Nothing is wrong with me, but she's like, oh, something is wrong with you. Like, tell me now, what is it? And I'm like, mommy, there's nothing wrong. Like, I'm just on my own. Maybe I just finished something and I'm tired. So me, I don't hide anything. Like, it's always very hard, maybe because we're all girls, having two sisters, my mom, so it's always very hard to hide something from them. But I've seen people, like I had one friend that from seeing this person, you would know that this person is going through a lot. And then unfortunately, she mixed with like other people that introduced her to other things like drinking and smoking. And she was doing this just so to suppress what she was going through at that point in time. And this is something she could maybe discuss with her parents at home or her siblings, but then they just never paid attention. Like they didn't. Yes, she's grown to an extent, but then at least you should be able to tell, like, oh, this person is my child, and then this person is going through this person is going through that. Like the person can voice out to their parents at home, but then she could not do it, so she was just keeping it to herself at that point. And then it got out of hands, and she was doing all sorts of things. She would smoke, she would drink, and then things like that would just turn out to be something very, very bad in the future.
So when so many teenagers actually say they're going through a lot, and honestly, sometimes when I think about it, like, what is a lot to a teenager? Like, sometimes they always have as if the whole head is on their shoulders. Please, what is a lot to a teenager?
Well, I just think that stage, there's too much pressure. Like pressure in school, pressure at home. You're trying to make your parents proud. You're trying to have good grades. You're trying to have a social life. So it's just like one person with so many things, like left and right. You look here, you have problems with friends. You look here, your parents are complaining, oh, don't forget about your grades, or always read and everything. So I just feel like when a teenager says, oh, they are going through a lot, it's actually a lot, because It's a lot, to be very
Because
honest.
in my head, I'll be like, they're not paying bills, they're
Uh-huh.
not doing anything, but you are going through a lot. I'm like, what is a lot? Because
It's
I've
a
heard that
lot.
statement. So many teenagers say it. They're like, I'm going through a lot. Like, a lot, what is it? As in, what is a lot? But I would imagine that it can be subjective. Like at every stage and every phase, every problem is a big problem. And like looking back, like when I
Yes.
was a teenager or when I was secondary school and all that, whatever challenge I was going through at that moment was like the biggest problem ever. And now that I've even passed that phase, whatever I'm going through right now will always be like the mountain that I have to, that I have to move and everything. So I guess at every phase in life, there is that challenge that seems like the biggest problem ever. And when you move past that, there's always something. And okay, honestly, that's the truth anyway. For every teenager, there is always something. Even by the time you leave that phase and you grow older, maybe you feel like when you get to university, that a lot will reduce. There's always one mountain or the other. And then I believe that you have to just build your faith as you grow older. Now, what are the symptoms? Like you were saying about your friend, that when you just see her, you just know that this girl is going through a lot. Wow, this is a lot, and we still have to give like we still have to number them. So what made
Yes.
you think that just looking at her, maybe because you're a teenager, you could actually deduce that she's going through a lot? And not to forget, to be fair on parents too are going through a lot because they have to pay for the fees. She might not be the only child. They're thinking about bills, they're thinking about school fees, they're thinking about one thing or the other. And they're also thinking about her future. So she's also in quotes and unquote, she's also like a burden. They're also thinking about her future and everything, and all the siblings if she has got siblings. So I'm not thinking, how did you, as a friend, actually, what did you see that made you feel like, oh my God, this girl is going through a lot? What are the symptoms? What did you see?
Okay, so what I saw was maybe we're having a social event in school. She won't want to come.
Okay.
We could be having a small conversation in the room. She would leave. Like, she just always wanted to be on her own. Like, no disturbance. Don't come and talk to me. I don't want to talk to you. That kind of thing. It's normal. Like, it's a normal thing for you to want to be alone, but not in every situation. Like, it's just a normal conversation in the room. Maybe we're gisting about one thing or the other, and then she will just leave to maybe go to one corner and just be there alone, just withdrawing yourself from everybody. Like, you feel like everybody is contributing to whatever you're going through at that point in time. So she was always withdrawing herself from every situation, from everything. Then another thing I can say is someone is just, I think it deals with every teenage. For a 13-year-old, there is a problem. Like, they have their own. For a 16-year-old, they have their own. 18 years, they have their own too. So it's almost like each age has its own problem. And then it's not like these problems reduce. Like you said earlier, that even as an adult, as a parent, they are also going through a lot. So it's not like as you're aging, the problems reduce. They kind of increase. Not that I'm saying people have problems or I mean that there's problems somewhere.
I think they take a different
I think
form.
it increases. Yes, exactly. Because for me, when I was 13, my own a lot was maybe how I looked that time. What my hair was not really long, my this was not really that. So when I was 16 was another thing entirely. I was thinking about, my future, this one. When I was 18, it was a whole big deal entirely. So that has given me like, that made me feel like definitely everybody has what they are going through in every age they get to. So I can say withdrawing withdrawing from every activity, then the kind of for another person, the kind of songs they listen to, like the kind of things they engage themselves in. I know someone that when she wakes up, she has this loudspeaker and then she just plays sad songs, like, you know, the way you hear songs and then you vibe to them, you sing to them. For her, she vibes to sad songs, she vibes to even her paintings, her drawings. She used to write this poet thing on TikTok, and then all the things there, they are just like sad things. Like, so you can tell from what the person is doing, the kind of activities they engage themselves, even the kind of movies she would watch. It's like all the problems on earth, they are on this particular person. So I think withdrawing from events and the kind of activities you engage in would make you know that, okay, something might be wrong with this person might be going through something. And then for someone that doesn't do something on a normal day and then they just suddenly switch to that thing, you would know that, okay, definitely something is wrong here. Yeah.
So I was just thinking, you know, when you talked about the fact that this person is withdrawing, okay, withdrawal can be okay. Withdrawal can be said to be okay, like a symptom, because this person might actually have friends and then start withdrawing. What if this person has never actually socialized, maybe an introvert, or you don't know the person before, but you just know that they are always on their own? And what if that's the personality? They really don't like crowd.
They really don't like crowd, but then no matter how much you don't want to be around people, this thing, okay, I hope this person does not get that it's them I'm talking about, but oh well. So even if you want to be an introvert or you are an introvert, you are withdrawing from your friends, your family. As per when they call you, you don't see, you just feel like everybody is disturbing you. Let me put it that way. Introverts, you know, okay, they don't like people around them. They always want to be alone. But then they have things that they are doing alone, like in their own secret door that is working out for them or that keeps them happy or something. But you're not doing what keeps you happy. You just want, everybody is disturbing you. It's like the slightest thing someone says is the biggest offense to you. Even when her parents call, like just random calls that your mom would call to check up on you or something, it's like they are disturbing her. Like, oh, I don't really want to talk to you. I'm not in. At times she would not even pick. There was a time that she turned off her phone and then she just kept it somewhere, like she doesn't want to. This was someone that was skipping classes. This person wasn't coming out at all. She was just always in her room. So Mr. Introvert or Mrs. Introvert, we understand that there are things you are doing indoors that are turning out well. But when you're indoor and then nothing is working out well, like you just wake up every morning, you follow a triangle life. You wake up, you eat, you watch sad movies, go to bed. You do the same thing every day. Like that one is quite different from being an introvert.
I kind of agree with you. But then now my mind is just going through the fact that why would anybody withdraw from their parents? And why would, you know, like sometimes their parents don't even notice this. I think that that actually shows where the problem might be coming from, because we know that for a teenager to have trauma or to have PTSD, it must be something that must have accumulated from like childhood, you know, that kind of a thing. It doesn't just happen. So we are looking at something like parental negligence on the part of the parents, because even before you as a friend notice it, that means the parent, if sensitive enough, should have noticed it, at least one of the parents, even if not both, you know, that kind of a thing. And so we're going into another issue, parental neglect. And who knows, there might be abuse involved. Who knows? So now we're going to start
Yeah.
opening another can of worms right there. And my thought is, how do you, I know you said you've experienced trauma before, though yours was quite different. Well, have you ever had a friend that you helped through trauma, or ever shared an experience of a traumatic event and you'd be like, oh, this is how we're going to do it, or let's work together to come out of this, even as a friend? Because I know teenagers, sometimes they depend on each other. Some things they don't tell their
Yeah.
friends, they don't tell their parents, excuse me. There are some things that they don't tell their parents, they won't tell their aunties or their uncles, but they will tell their friends. So many times their friends know what is wrong with them, but some to cover for them, even if their parents ask or something like that. So I think that friends do a lot more harm and also a lot good to teenagers, so to say. So how have you, as a person and as a teenager, have you been able to help one of your friends, or have you had any friend that actually kind of had a traumatic event?
Yes, I've had one. I've had a lot, actually.
Where are
But
you
I'm just
seeing them?
because this was in secondary. When I was in high school, it was more of like, oh, Debola the counselor. Like everybody that had a problem would just come to me to talk to me about it, and then I would say maybe something, and out of all the gist they would have one thing to pick out from what I've said that would actually help them. I know someone that, this one was not even in secondary school. I was not even this person's age mate. This person was like, I think I was 16 or 17 then. This person was like 18 or 19.
Okay.
And then I didn't even know her age. It was just, she looked smaller than I was. So I didn't picture her as an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old. And then she said something about her having this experience, like it was something from her childhood, that then it was a family problem kind of thing. I think her parents used to fight a lot and then argue a lot, and she's the only child. So they argue, do everything like in her presence. So then she was like, oh, she already made up her mind that she was not going to get married because she didn't want to have the same kind of experience her mom had. So then I think she was in a relationship then, and then her boyfriend was doing the same thing. Like it was not exactly the same thing, but then it felt like the same thing for her. What her dad used to do to her mom, her boyfriend was doing to her. So then it became a problem. Like for her, it was more of a PTSD kind of thing. Like she would just start feeling, there's a way
anger.
I don't know, is it anger? I won't say anger per se, but then she just gets really emotional. Let me put it like that.
Maybe
like
anxiety.
She was feeling like the same thing was happening over and over again. And with her, like, imagine your worst nightmare becoming a reality for you. That was how it was for her. So then she used to do this mental health, because they used to do this mental health talk, and then where you like speak to a counselor and everything. So then she was also doing therapy, if I can remember. So she was using
That's
the
good.
mental
Who recommended
health
that?
talking.
Sorry. Who recommended the therapy?
I was the one.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah. So then she was doing therapy and then the mental health thing. But then the mental health thing was not really helping, because we would see a counselor and everything, but then the counselor would go back and tell like other people about it or share her experience to that kind of thing. And then she did not want something like that, so she stopped it. And then that was where the whole therapy thing came up, that okay, since this thing is unbearable, like she you don't know how to leave the relationship, you don't know what to do. It's like you're stuck in the middle, because even if you leave the relationship, you will still remember like those things, those memories would come again. So I'm like, maybe you should consider going for therapy. like enroll in, don't talk to one counselor, or like find an actual therapist that knows how to handle these things, the kind of advice or things they will recommend you to do. And then it was after we're talking, then she now asked me, like, how old are you? Like, me, I'm 17. Oh. She was like, oh, that she even used to think I was older, this and that, she's 19. I'm just like, then I was feeling myself, I've given you a 19-year-old advice.
19-year-old advice.
But then I was like, this thing it's not even about the glory of giving a 19-year-old advice, but then I just feel like it was preparing me in case, God forbid, but in case I find myself in a situation like that, or another relative, maybe my family member or my cousin or somebody, I would be able to know what to do, because the therapy thing worked for her. Like, she was now okay. And then she mentioned that her mom too was now going for the therapy, so they were both doing it
together.
So I'm quite useful. I've helped quite a lot of people.
That's really good to hear, because therapy really helps. So if there's anybody listening to us right now and feeling like they can't get out of a situation or experience trauma, or they're feeling they have PTSD, if you've got the symptoms, maybe you're angry, you're withdrawing, you're feeling like you can't do something, I think that therapy is really good and is a place to, talk to somebody and let them help you through it. And did she leave that her boyfriend? Was she able to leave? Did she leave on her own, or it was after she did therapy on her own? Okay, that's cool. Yeah. And I think another thing that she should note is there might be something attracting her to those kind of people, because I know that sometimes when people have been through or experienced or witnessed abuse in our case, in our context, there might be situations whereby she's attracted to people or men that she wants to help. So obviously the guy will have red flags, but she might be feeling like, no, I will, like she might be having
I
that
can change
feeling,
him.
I can change him, I can help him, or feeling like, oh, maybe the dad is like that, she can definitely change the guy and everything. So it's something to be take note of, even when going into relationships, to know that you can't be Jesus is the Messiah and nobody's going to take Jesus' place, but then she should just be, maybe there's something that is attracting her to men like that. And I believe that a therapist would have talked her through all that. Yes, thank you so much. And we'll continue this conversation. And I just want everyone listening to us right now, if you're listening to us right now, we are not, we don't work with mental health or anything. We're just talking based on experience. And then we'll continue this conversation because there's a lot to talk about. And one of the symptoms that we have actually talked about here is the fact that teenagers withdraw, and parents should actually take note of that. They should be sensitive enough to know when the child is changing or when they're withdrawing from events that they normally take part in, activities that they enjoy doing. And I think that sometimes a teenager can also be sad or hungry for no just cause. It might be that there's something deep or emotional that is bothering them. These are things and symptoms that parents should take note of. And friends, obviously, as Debola has said, friends are huge help. So even as an individual, you can be a help to your friend that is going through a traumatic event or PTSD. So you can actually be that savior, in quote and unquote. You can be that help, because I know that most times there are so many things that as individuals we might not be able to tell our parents, might not be able to tell your uncles or your aunties, maybe they're not close enough, but your friends, you can discuss, because somehow you believe that they wouldn't judge you. And parents should also take note of their children's friends,
Yes.
I think, they should take note of the children's friends, because sometimes when they switch friends might actually be a signal that there's something wrong. Or take note of your children's friends, and if you're closer to the friends of your child, it's actually a good thing, because the child might not be able to tell you something, but your child's friend, if she's a good person, might be able to tell you that, mommy, there's a problem, or or there's something going wrong with, you know, with her or with your daughter and that kind of a thing, and that will help a lot. So I think parents should actually take cognizance and take note of that. Concluding remarks from you, Debola, and yeah.
Okay, so I would just like to say that you should talk to someone, no matter how bad it is or how you feel you should hide this thing. Please talk to someone about it, because it could lead you to something else. It could even result to a health challenge for you, like piling up things in your chest for too long, or keeping one secret from. Talk to someone, your mom, your best friend, your cousin, your relative, a counselor, a therapist, a guardian, someone you confide in. Just share it with the person, because is how did they say this thing? A problem shared is half solved, or something like that. When you it's better you open up, because the person you're talking to might be someone that has experienced something like that, and they have a solution on how they got out of the problem. So find someone you can talk to about it. Don't keep things to yourself. And to parents, to guardians, to siblings, to any adults watching this and has a teenager or a teenage friend, a teenage relative, please pay close attention to them. They might have things they are going through, and then they might just be smiling or playing around, but once in a while, have a conversation with your teenager, ask them about problems going on. They are not kids, but still have a conversation with them. Try to find out what they are doing, how things are working out for them. Don't let them just be alone, or don't, because I said, hey, please don't now invade their private, let them have their private space, but still try to find out things that might be going wrong.
Yeah, I know teenagers don't like people invading their privacy.
Mm-hmm.
That one can be a big thing. Like you don't like it too. So yeah, that one can be a big thing. It's because they're hiding something now. What are you guys hiding? If there's nothing to hide, it will just be like an open book, but it's all right. Yeah, we get it. But yeah, everybody has been through that stage, so we get it. But yeah, so yeah, thank you so much for listening. We'll continue this conversation. Tell us what you think. You know, as a teenager, if you're listening to us, what causes trauma for you, or what are traumatic events that you've experienced? How, if you've been able to like come out of it, how did you come out of it? How did you go through it? Did you see a therapist, or who helped you? Did you have a good friend? Did you have good friends around? Did religion help you? Did your church help you? Did your parents help you? Did they notice, you know, that kind of a thing? We'll be glad if parents notice this more and more. You know, that would be a very good one, you know, for parents to notice and actually be able to help. And actually, I think this is something that we'll talk about our next episode. As regards, sometimes parents notice and they don't know how to handle it, and then it just goes nuts from there. Like they just handle it the wrong way, and you know, something else just happens, and it becomes another issue entirely, whereby the teenager will now rebel or something. So I think that's another thing. Yeah, I'm hoping that we'll be able to invite somebody to actually handle that for us, but we will talk about it in our next episode. Thank you so much, and till we come your way again next episode, stay tuned on PSL. Remember to subscribe. Remember to share with your friends. Remember to like, and also remember to comment. Yes, your opinion matters to us. Thank you, and bye.